Welcome to the Strength for the Day podcast, which is a daily Bible study with Dennis Fountain. We hope this time together will be challenging, sharpening, uplifting, encouraging, and strengthening to your Christian walk. Thank you for joining us, and we pray you are helped through today's study. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Strength for the Day. This is a daily podcast that goes over a number of social media outlets, and I hope that it finds you doing well today, this episode, as we continue our study in the book of Philippians. We have just recently been with Paul as he has been commending the believers of Philippi. Remember how thankful he was for them. Most recently, he's been encouraging them with unity and humility. And then yesterday, or in our last episode, we were with Paul as he spoke just about Timothy. Remember, Paul, he's in a jail cell. He's in Rome. He is being persecuted for being a follower of Jesus. And he wants to travel to see the believers in Philippi, but he can't. And so until he knows what is going to happen with him, he's going to send Timothy to these believers to encourage them. And the reason he's sending Timothy, he wrote about it. We read it yesterday, or in our last episode, we read that the reason he is sending Timothy is because Timothy has the same mind of Paul. Well, what is that mindset? Well, it's the mindset to not be consumed with selfish motives and selfish desires, but instead to look upon the interests and the needs of people around them and to try to encourage people rather than be encouraged. Timothy had the mindset like Paul did, where Paul said, all seek their own, not the things which are of Christ, but you know Timothy's character and how he has served in the gospel with me. And so that's why I'm sending Timothy to you, because he's going to come as a good representation of me. Well, Paul continues with the commending of people as he writes to the believers about Epaphroditus. Now, who is Epaphroditus? Okay. We won't get into a whole lot of things about Epaphroditus, but I believe that Epaphroditus was the pastor of the church of Philippi, or one of the leaders of that church, perhaps even one of the leaders in the church of Colossae. We can go and you can do a bunch of research on your own regarding this, but he was a leader in these early churches. And I want you to notice what Paul writes about Epaphroditus. Verse number 25 of Philippians chapter number 2. Paul says, "Yet I considered it necessary to send to you Epaphroditus, my brother, fellow worker, and fellow soldier, but your messenger and the one who ministered to my needs." So Epaphroditus is the one who Philippi sent to Paul, got to Paul, told Paul everything that was going on, and Paul is now sending Epaphroditus back to them. But I want you to see what he says about Paul. He calls him my brother, my fellow worker, and my fellow soldier. Man, Paul could not say enough about Epaphroditus. While Paul was there in prison in Rome, Epaphroditus volunteered to be with him and to be one that helped him and encouraged him while he was there. And Epaphroditus was not simply content with just like coming and delivering something to Paul. No, Epaphroditus wanted to be carried with Paul, be along carrying the offering with Paul to the believers in Israel, and that's a whole nother story. I probably got sidetracked there for a second, but Epaphroditus was one that served alongside Paul, and Paul is commending and saying, "Man, he is a great guy." Now, notice what else he says. "Since he was longing for you all," so Epaphroditus was desiring to be with you, "and he was distressed because you had heard that he was sick." So Epaphroditus got sick on a journey, and he had heard that the believers at Philippi were bummed. They were discouraged that he was sick, and he got burdened for them. He just has a heart for people. Verse numbers 27, "For indeed he was sick, almost unto death. But God had mercy on him, and not only on him, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. Therefore I sent him the more eagerly, that when you see him again, you may rejoice, and I may be less sorrowful. Receive him, therefore, in the Lord with all gladness, and hold such men in esteem, because for the work of Christ he came close to death, not regarding his life, to supply what was lacking in your service toward me. Paul is helping us understand that Epaphroditus was one that, when it says that he's ministered to my needs, that phrase means he served me in my point of destitution. I was completely empty, filled with sorrow, but Epaphroditus had a heart to encourage me and to help me. And then Paul says, and I know his heart has been to encourage and help you, because he was willing to disregard his own desires, his own health. Now, this doesn't mean that Epaphroditus didn't care about health. No, Epaphroditus was sick, and even to the point of death, but he still had a desire to be a blessing to his own church. And so Paul admonishes the church to honor him for his sacrifice and his service. You see, Epaphroditus had sacrificed himself with no thought of reward and with a love for people. What an incredible testimony that Epaphroditus had. He served the Lord and he served others no matter the cost to himself. Now, I don't think that he did this in a way that was negligent of his health. I think he served in spite of his health. This few weeks ago, we had our Easter Sunday. I think I spoke about that a couple days ago. During one of our songs, I looked over, and one of our fellows from the church, many of you know him, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but Arnie, who goes to our church. Arnie is, I want to say he's in his late 80s. And Arnie, you might be watching this, and I could be wrong. You can tell me. But I looked over at one point in one of our songs on Easter Sunday, and Arnie just, he was filled with praise that morning. And his arm just shot up, and he started singing, and then he closed his eyes and kind of lost his balance. So he opened his eyes, but grabbed that chair, and man, he was just worshiping and praising the Lord. And it reminded me of a man who was in our church for a number of years, whose name was Sam Stewart. And Sam got diagnosed with mesothelioma back in 2017, somewhere in there. And he passed away shortly after that. I think 2018, maybe early 2019. My years might be confused, but you know, something I really enjoyed and appreciated about Sam and Arnie when I was reminded of Sam is here's men who don't have their health. If you know Arnie, you know that he's got some good days and he's got bad days. If you knew Sam, you knew that he had good days and he had bad days. But you know, something I loved about Sam Stewart and I love about Arnie is, in spite of health, man, they're serving people. They just love. I remember when Sam Stewart was diagnosed, and I remember him saying, "Hey, Pastor, can I come do something?" And we've got pictures of him actually even in one of these rooms that we're recording in, where he helped lay the carpet. You know, he was sick and not doing well, but he helped do something. I think of my dad, who even in his last years was serving people in spite of being riddled with cancer. Man, there are so many people that have the testimony that they serve in spite of circumstances. I want to encourage you today, and me, as we go through our day. I know me, I've told my story a ton of times of injuries and things like that. And I'm young, I get it, but I've got some back injuries that honestly, it stays with me most days. And, I don't want to be that person that just kind of goes, oh, I can't. Why? Because my back hurts. I just got to stay. No, I want to be the person that says, I'm going to serve in spite of this flesh. I'm going to serve in spite of the circumstances that I'm in. And may we today determine that we're going to serve God and serve people regardless of what's going on around us. I'm going to serve on the good days, and I'm going to serve on the tough days. I'm going to follow God when it's easy, and I'm going to follow God when it's hard. Epaphroditus was commended. Paul said, hey, he is a servant. He disregarded circumstances, his own health, and he served in spite of it. And may we be those Christians today, serving God and serving people. I hope that today would be an encouragement to you and that you would determine to be like Epaphroditus, one that served God in spite of circumstances and in spite of his situations. Well, have a great day. Have a great weekend at your church, wherever you go. And we will see you back episode on Monday as we pick up in Philippians chapter number 3. Have a great day.